What's up, YouTube, and welcome to my pickups video for the month of October 2019. Had a very busy month this month, and actually started off with not picking up a lot of video games because I had complete baseball playoffs fever. My St. Louis Cardinals were in the playoffs. They played in the Division Series as well as the Championship Series in the National League, and I was glued to the TV set as well as at Busch Stadium taking in playoffs games for the first half of the month. Unfortunately, they did get knocked out by the Washington Nationals, and who have now gone on to win the World Series, so I guess I feel okay about it since somehow they turned into this superhuman team that wasn't even all that good in the regular season. But anyways, very exciting month for my Cardinals. Haven't been in the playoffs for a few years, and I am a big baseball fan, so obviously got hooked on that, and kind of put game collecting on the back burner for the first couple weeks of the month. However, it picked up greatly from there. I went to my fourth in a row Portland Retro Gaming Expo a couple weeks ago and had a great time there as always. Love the city, and always just a great convention with all the things going on. Definitely felt very different this year as far as the games that were for sale. Overall, you're seeing a shift in what the vendors are bringing, at least, if not the collecting scene as a whole. I remember 3-4 years ago, you could go and see probably like 10 to 12 little Samsons for sale, when those were, you know, incredibly rare out in general, but overall in a place like that, they were all showing up at the same place for sale. This year, it wasn't as much of the 8-bit or even 16-bit stuff. Even felt things like Sega Genesis were drying up as compared to a couple years ago. So definitely seeing a lot more disc-based systems at that convention. There is still a lot of very, very rare stuff there, but didn't buy as much as I expected to. I will show you some of the things I got specifically from the convention, as well as some things I got from the Pacific Northwest, because I had a few days up there just to travel around also. So that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with some NEC Turbo stuff to kick off. First game is something I got from the convention. This is Tiger Road for the TurboGrafx 16. This was one that I don't really see very often. Even on eBay, it doesn't pop up a ton, but it really hasn't taken off in price like some of the other Turbo games. This was based on a Capcom arcade game, which I've played years ago, but didn't really remember all that well. And I can tell you it does make a very good Turbo translation. I played this quite a bit, actually, over the last couple weeks since I got it. And one thing I like about this, even for an early Turbo game, is this does support the save feature of the Turbo Duo. So you can save your progress along the way and kind of pick up from there. Very good arcade translation. Like I said, I actually have a new appreciation for this game, and I'd like to go back and play the arcade version, see how it stacks up now that I've got to know this game quite a bit better. But can definitely recommend this if you're looking for something different for your Turbo. I did also get an import game for PC Engine this month, and this is one that's been on my want list for quite some time. This is Ninja Ryukenden for the PC Engine, or Ninja Gaiden as we know it here in the US. Very interesting release for the PC Engine. This came out about 4 years after the NES version, so it wasn't like it was released simultaneously by any means. It's more of a remix of the original game. It was actually developed by Hudson Soft, not Tecmo, and very just unique take on the original series. The music is almost completely different, so one of the things I can say that is one of the things the game is lacking, because the Ninja Gaiden for NES had probably one of the best video game soundtracks of the era. Overall, the sounds on this just don't have that punchiness and that memorable soundtrack that I'm very used to. The other thing is I'm quite an expert, I would say, at the first game. I can't beat it, but I can get darn close. And this game, I'm like lost. It's the memorization and patterns that I've learned over the years from the original game don't work here. They've changed some of the game mechanics, and even though things may look about the same, and as far as placement of enemies, the timing is completely different. So I have to go back and relearn this game and give it a little time. A lot of people talk about the background scrolling in this game. It has this very weird non-parallax scrolling function of the backgrounds. It's kind of distracting in some pieces of the game. But overall, the style of the game looks very nice. I mean, some of the enemies that were hard to even tell what they were supposed to be in the original game, you can now clearly point out that that's what they are. So there are some redeeming qualities of this, and I'm very happy to add it to the collection. Overall, I've been big into ninja games in general for the last few years, and trying to get as many as I possibly can. I was considering making a video of all the Ninja action games for the PC Engine and TurboGrafx, because there are quite a few, and I've built up, I think, most of them in my collection. I want to chase down maybe one or two more, and then that might be a video that I make in a few months, so we'll see how it goes. Next, since we're talking about Ninja games, we're going to move on to a new release. This is Ninja Saviors, which just came out as the retail release with the ESRB rating, and I believe this is like Amazon and internet-only ordering, because GameStop is not carrying this in their system or in their stores. So if there may be some other stores that carry this retail, I'm not saying it's online only, but I would say that this US retail released version is going to be pretty difficult to find, just because it seems to have pretty limited distribution. This was obviously released a few months ago, or sold a few months ago by Strictly Limited Games, but I didn't buy it then because overall I'm not really crazy about that system that they have set up, and I really just wanted to see, because the developer said they were going to be doing a retail release and wait for this. So it's had many delays. It is out now. It just came out this week. I just got it in the mail a couple days ago. I did play the majority of it through. This is a very faithful remix, whatever you want to call it, of the Super Nintendo Ninja Warriors game. So this is not a all-new game. It is not based on the original arcade game. It is strictly based on the Super Nintendo game, and it was developed by this branch of Natsume Japan that also did the Wild Guns remake for PS4 a couple years ago. So very similar in theme to that one, just a strict remake of the Super Nintendo classic that they developed back then. Really fun game. I really like some of the mechanics of this. I actually went back and played the Super Nintendo game and have a newfound appreciation for that cartridge that I hadn't touched in several years. One of the things I like about both of these games is that they don't really follow the Capcom beat-em-up path that if you go and you punch or kick somebody down, and then you wait for them to get back up, and then you do it again, and then they knock them down again, and then third time's the charm, they usually die. A lot of the enemies in this, you slash them once, they go away. It seems very obvious, but it's not really the typical way that beat-em-ups worked back in the day. So I applaud them for making the gameplay a little more simple and less repetitive, that you don't have to keep beating on the exact same enemy multiple times to get it to go away. You do in some cases, but not all. So just one thing that kind of made the game a little bit unique. This is pretty bare bones. I mean, as far as presentation, I don't think the original game is included or anything like that. Has, I think, maybe soundtracks that you can get once you unlock a couple more of the characters. There's a couple new characters they added to it. But overall, as far as retail presentation, they did a nice job. It has a poster and a manual and some character cards that all came in the case, which I guess I could show you. So actually a physical manual, which is nice, on a $29.99 retail release, which is not too bad. So some nice extras of this. I'm happy it came out. The other thing this prompted me to do is, because I'm on this huge Ninja kick, I found out that the original arcade Ninja Warriors, which is a totally different game developed by Taito, is now available as a download in the PS4 store, which I hardly ever download games, and it is well worth getting. The presentation on that game is excellent, and is well worth having now on the PS4 because it was a widescreen orientation arcade game, and none of the home ports really could demonstrate that correctly back in the day. So that is a perfect time to get that game on your PS4. Plus they've added some innovative sound options to recreate some of the like subwoofers that the arcade cabinet had, to really make it more authentic to the arcade experience. So if you get this game, I would encourage you to also download that Ninja Warriors arcade game as a good partner to this, because I'm having fun playing through both of those. So definitely could recommend both if you are on the Ninja action trip like I am. Alright, next we're going to move on to Neo Geo Pocket Color games. This has kind of been my thing I've been collecting a little bit more often lately. I'm thinking about going for the full set. It is a small set, but it is a very difficult set to put together, especially if you want complete in the box. But this was probably my #1 thing on my list that I wanted to pick up more of at the Portland Con, because it seems like I've had good luck finding these games out there in the past, and probably some games I should have picked up at the past that I didn't. So I was really going out there thinking I was going to be cleaning up. That was not the case at all. This year they were very difficult to find there, as they're becoming difficult to find everywhere. So even things like that are not immune to shifts in the market. So the first game I got is SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters Clash. This is the SNK version of the game. there's also a Capcom version of the game, and I still need that one too. So this I actually picked up, not at the con, but in the Pacific Northwest, just driving around to some of the game stores up there, and was very happy to get it. Unfortunately, I am not a collectible card game player. I never have been. I've never really figured out what they're all about. So maybe I'll give a little bit of time to this and see what all the hype is, but ultimately I know nothing about how to do those. So I'm probably going to be lost playing this game, but we'll see how it goes. The next one I did get at the con. This was one that I was very high on my priority list for the system. I just had never owned it. This is Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket for Neo Geo Pocket Color. Very cool that this got released. This was extremely crazy at the time in that Sega was releasing a game for another competing manufacturer. You know, today we take that completely for granted. Obviously, Sonic is on all the platforms as well as all these Sega titles. Up until this point in the late 90s, that did not happen. Sega games only came out on Sega consoles for the most part. So, to see this partnership with Sega and SNK was very unusual. And there's a couple other ways that overlap too that I'm going to show you more of next month, hopefully, and how they had this partnership going. But long before Sega even was released on Nintendo consoles, they did release Sonic on Neo Geo Pocket Color. So I haven't got a chance to play this yet, but this is definitely high on my priority list. Cool artwork, kind of matches up with the Dreamcast art style of Sonic Adventure. So definitely looking forward to playing this soon. So since I had kind of budgeted to do some major purchases with Neo Geo Pocket Color games at the con, I actually came back with more money than expected as far as that budgeting went. So as I was out there, I actually found an eBay auction for one of my big wants on the Neo Geo Pocket Color and bought this one on eBay, and this is Magical Drop Pocket. This is one of the great rarities of the system for some reason. I don't really know why. It was not one of the later release games. It actually came out earlier in the system life, but this is a very difficult puzzle game to find for the system. Obviously developed by Data East, just like the arcade game, and definitely looking forward to trying this out on the system. I think this will work really good with the clicky joystick, and definitely very happy to have this in my collection. So this popped up on eBay just coincidentally. You don't see this game come up for sale much at all, and very, very nice condition. The seller's actually listing a few other things I've got my eye on, and hoping to get a couple more in my collection too. So definitely very happy to get those 3 Neo Pocket games. Obviously looking for many more, just definitely having a lot of trouble finding them, especially in stores or even at things like the Portland Con. Also, while I was up there, I picked this up. This was not on my priority list at all, but complete in the box unusual Game Gear games definitely catch my eye. So I found Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck, and have never played this. I don't think this game has a great reputation, but again, just very cheap and difficult to find game complete in the box, so I decided to go ahead and grab it. If you've watched my last couple videos, another thing I've been getting is more Sega Mega CD Japanese imports, so the Sega CD version in Japan, because there's a lot of cool Wolf Team exclusives that only came out on the Japanese system. So this is another one of those. Got this in the mail over the last month. This is Devastator, and it is a pretty good like mech action and also shooting game. It has some shooting stages in it as well. Very nice artwork, has some cool cutscenes, as most of the Wolf Team games do, that are actually of pretty good quality, and can recommend this. It's easy to pick up and play, has a nice variety to the action and stage design, and definitely a fun game for the system. So always happy to get more of these just Mega CD games that didn't come out here. Sega CD obviously has this horrible reputation as this FMV console. I don't think that's the case. There's actually a lot of really good action games and system exclusives for it. Just some of them, unfortunately, did not leave Japan. So, very happy to have that in the collection as well. It's got some nice artwork on it too, should have called out. But I like all those Wolf Team games. Speaking of Sega CD, I did get one other game while I was up in the Pacific Northwest. This is Hook. It does come in one of these very, very condition-sensitive paper boxes that the early Sega CD games came in. Even made worse because this one is black, and black is like the hardest thing to keep in good condition because it gets nicks very easily. So this is not mint by any means, but it is definitely above average when you consider how beat up most of these got, especially for a kid's release. So most of the time I would think that this is just some stupid license game, not something that would even be worth putting into the system. But this actually is pretty playable. This was developed by Sony of Japan before, obviously, the PlayStation was a thing. And this actually was developed by the same team that developed the game Sky Blazer for Super Nintendo, which is now viewed as a classic. So it does have a very similar art style to it. It definitely has a very Japanese animated appearance to it, which looks very different from a lot of the licensed movie games that were around during this era. The only thing I could say for the gameplay in this is, just like the Super Nintendo version, the characters move extremely slow. I was actually hoping that was a symptom of the Super Nintendo slowdown, and that this one would move much faster, but it actually plays exactly the same. What makes the Sega CD version the ideal one to get is it does have the like orchestrated movie score that plays in full CD quality sound. So this game does sound very, very good, especially if you're into the movie music that it has included. Obviously, I'm not a huge Peter Pan fan or even remember this movie. I think I was way too old for that kiddie stuff, even when this game came out, or when the movie came out, and I never saw it. But overall, I have an appreciation for this. It just has that nice Japanese animated style of gameplay that's worth taking a look. So, very happy to have that in my Sega CD collection, and again, just getting one of those hard-to-find paper box games in decent shape. I have one more game I got for the month, and then I'll show you a couple other things I got. This is for the Nintendo DS. This is Zouna, the Unemployed Ninja. Legend of the Unemployed Ninja by Atlas, and actually developed by Success. I actually have the second game in this series. I've owned it for several years, and I've never popped it in and played it. So now I have two of these games. I'd like to give it a try. Obviously, I've been on this big ninja kick, but I do believe this is just like a classic-style RPG. It's not like a ninja action game or anything like that. But nice artwork on it, and overall looking forward to at least giving it a chance, seeing if this is something I would enjoy. So, the last thing I got for the month is really just manuals, and to be honest, at the Portland Con, I was expecting to get a lot more games. The best thing I found out there was just some rare manuals and things like that to help me plug in some gaps in my collection. So, I was very happy at least to walk out with that, if not a lot of games that I needed. First one of these is for a game that I don't even have the cartridge or the box for, but I saw the manual. I know how this is a very difficult game to find, and I know that knowing Sega Genesis games, this is probably the most difficult part to find, is a nice manual. So I went ahead and got the manual for Rollo to the Rescue by EA, which is a very unusual platformer developed by EA, not really something that they did a lot of at the time, and looking forward to getting this. This is a game I've been wanting for a while. Does go for a decent amount, so again, hoping to piece one together by getting a cartridge and box, and then obviously the manual, which will be the most difficult piece of the puzzle to find, I now have. Another Sega Genesis manual I picked up this month is for Gargoyles. This is one that I did have the box and cartridge, so this will complete my copy of this. This is one of the later released paper box games, and the manuals for these are very difficult to find, so very happy to get this off my list as well and complete that game. And then the last but not least, I have a stack of NES manuals. So I actually did have some pretty good luck getting manuals for NES games while I was out there. And I got one for the shooter Sky Kid, originally by Namco. This one's pretty good. I got Guerrilla War by SNK. It's that kind of classic SNK art style on it. I got this one for Conflict by Vic Tokai. This one also came complete with the like move map that folds out. So couldn't pass on that because I had both those pieces to it. This is one I'm really excited about because I had the box and cartridge, and now I have it complete, and that is for Power Blade by Taito, one of my favorites on the system. A excellent Mega Man clone type game for the system that I definitely recommend, and obviously as a big Taito fan, this helps me get closer to my complete in-box Taito set that I've been going for several years. Next up is a manual for Star Wars. Just kind of notable because it has this unique vertical orientation. There's not a whole lot of manuals that are like that on the system. And then very last one of these is another one that's been on my want list for several years. This is the manual for the original Mega Man with that wonderful artwork and colorization on the cover. Very happy to get this. I do believe this is the last Mega Man manual I needed for the NES. And I think I need boxes for 1 and 2, and then I would have all of them complete in the box. So kind of a long-term goal. I know that first box goes for a ton of money also, but at least I have the manual now. It gets me a little bit closer. So that about does it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.